Thank you for joining us. My name is Stephen Carter. I'm the founder of Stress Relief Radio, and I am the host of the Creating Inner Harmony program. In this episode, we are honored to have Maribeth Decker as our guest. Maribeth is an expert in animal communication. She is a medical intuitive, she's an energy healer. During her sessions, as she will share, she offers far more than simply animal communication. Using the methods that she's learned and developed, she leads pets and their human guardians to a place of emotional, behavioral, and physical healing and well being. Let's join my conversation with Maribeth Decker right now. Maribeth, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Well, it is my pleasure. It truly is an honor to have you here. And as we get into the topic of animal communication, animal healing, can you share a little bit with us? What is animal communication?
That's a great place to start, Steve. It is mind to mind communication, might also be called telepathy. It is not reading their non-verbs. That is a way of communicating. But in this case, we're talking mind to mind, soul to soul, personality to personality, using the energy of thoughts, feelings, words between us both, as a way of getting whatever they want to communicate or whatever we want to communicate back and forth.
When you are communicating with an animal,
Mm.
how do you go about? Well, first of all, is this a skill anyone can learn?
Yeah,
It
it
is.
is.
Okay.
It is. We're
It
all
is.
equipped. We were all born with the necessary equipment. Let's put it that way.
Okay, so we can all learn to do this beautiful skill or have this skill innate, but I'm sure that there's a lot of refinement and skill that you have to develop over time. And I'd like to get into that in a couple of minutes on exactly how we might be able to do that. Um, so it is a skill we can learn. Um, how did you discover and then develop your own animal communication skills?
I had the luckiest time in a strange way. I was later part of my life, and I like to tell it this way just to say I'm an example that you don't have to be born an animal communicator or know that you are. Somewhere along the way, oh, probably about 15 years ago, uh, I decided I would do some, learn some energy healing. Reiki, became a Reiki Master and did learn some other things, quantum touch at the time. And that was when my dogs started communicating with me. I didn't even know animal communication was something that happened in this world. And the best part for me was both of those dogs had passed. And so not only did I get animal communication, but I got confirmation that uh, for me, the truth is that our animals survive the death of their bodies, and they're still there, uh, and their energy is still there, their personalities, and that was how I started. It continued with live animals. At the time, I just had dogs. Now I have dogs and cats. But one dog, Tibor, was came from a really tough situation, and I started seeing in my mind's eye a vision from before he was rescued. And it happened once, and it was like, oh, that's interesting. Happened again. And I looked down him on the couch and said, what the heck is going on, T? And I talked to my friend Mary and she says, well, that's animal communication. I said, well, that's cool. I'm then that led me to get training so I could do it on purpose. And that's what started me off. My own dogs got me
Mm.
going.
So, really, prior to that, you didn't even know animal communication was a thing. If I'm
No, I didn't. And some people have told me I've always had the connection. I can only say from my point of view, I certainly didn't realize it or know it. I just knew that I really liked animals and I liked being out in nature, but that's as far as I can really take it.
on your website, which is a beautiful website, I must say, on your website, I noticed that you have a wonderful resource, which I have a copy of, and that is 5 things your pets want you to know.
Yeah.
Now, the very first thing in on that list is I picked you. Can you speak to why this is important for a pet guardian? And I love that term, by the way. Yet so many times we will refer to ourselves as owners, but in truth, we really are guardians, or we should be. So, why is that important for the pet guardian to know, and also for the pet? Can you speak a little bit about that?
I would love to. I think it opens us up to a richer relationship. For me, it's acknowledging the truth of the richer relationship. Uh, in my world, there's no accident with how how significant beings come into our lives. So, I mean, I had always heard about soul families which and again, in my world means that certain individuals have decided to come back a few times and take on different roles. And I realized that we have the same relationship with the animals that we're really close to, that they made a decision to be part of our lives just as much as we noticed them and did what it took to bring them into our lives. I think that there's a bigger thing going on, and you could almost talk about spiritual connections, and that brings us together for us to live a life together in this time and place. So, yeah, I do believe that they had a hand in it just as much as we know that what we did to bring him in.
Another one of the 5 things that you have is I under excuse me, I understand more than you think. What is how is that important, and both for us as guardians and also for the pets?
Well, I think it has there's been a lot of beliefs out there, and I've even heard people say this to me when they find out I'm an animal communicator. They say, "I know everything my dog's thinking. All he just loves me for my because I feed him." I'm like, "Wow, you're missing a lot, man. If you've ever watched Wizard of Oz, you're living in black and white. Come over to the Technicolor. Come over to the whole rainbow, because there's a lot more going on. They have they have a rich inner life, and what I'm really excited about is people are starting to study this, and a lot of them in very humane ways. But there's also stories out there about how other species grieve. We used to think that was just human, and other species miss. Another way of saying it, grieving, or miss the loss of a human or another animal in the family. They can solve problems. Anybody who's read about crows know that crows are pretty smart. So are octopus. There's just a lot more there than we probably, at least my generation, was brought up to believe about the capacity of animals.
The
So,
intelligence, you're absolutely, of course, right. The intelligence of animals is just unbelievable. And of course, it seems from our point of view, some animals are more intelligent than others, but my gracious, and you bring up crows. I've seen them go to work as a team. So they will, in the area where I live, they will send out a scout to look at all the trash bins. And the crow will land on a trash bin and pick through it, and then he'll call out and a whole bunch show up. They are team, they are
yeah,
team members.
yep. And the things that they're finding out about emotions, there's a neurophysicist, I think, who was able to do a study that showed that this book is called How Dogs Love Us, that the same part of the brain that lights up when humans exhibit love, because we can hook onto all that, we can he was able to notice that that same part of the brain would light up when their person was in the room, or anyway, he set it up so it was very clear that what we would call love was also showing up in that species. So we weren't making it up. We're finding this out.
Now, you work with clients, right?
Yeah.
So who
Yeah.
would like to get to or have answers from their pets. Over the years that you've been doing this, can you share one or two experiences where is something really surprising came out of someone's pet?
Yeah, I think as I was thinking back on this, it seems to me the ones that show up most surprisingly are around um, end of life or transition are the ones that surprised me the most. Maybe because I'm still learning about it, but anyway, um, and then I do have a couple of, well, while they're still alive, but I wanted to share this one, which was disconcerting. A little girl and her mom were talking to me, and I was connecting with their dog who had died, who had passed. She was somewhere in grade school, and she asked, "Does he miss me?" And I heard no. I'm like, how can I tell this to this nice little girl? I mean, that's going to be devastating. So I says, well, what do you mean no? Because I was a little bit, just you heard it in my voice. What do you mean no? And the answer I got was pretty lovely. It's like, I can still see her. I can still be with her when I want to. I can visit. It's, she is very present to me. And then, so I was able to explain that because in spirit, they have the ability to connect and see, or however you would say it. I'm not sure the words are right, but anyway, to be in our presence, to know what that we're up to. So for this particular one, it's no, I'm getting everything I need from spirit. And so we were just explaining to her that we don't have the same abilities generally, and that's why we miss them. So that was astounding to me, truthfully.
You have authored a wonderful book. We don't, of course, like to think about our animals transitioning or our pets, but that is part of life. Tell us about the book, and it is a bestseller on Amazon. Congratulations on
Thank
that.
you.
Tell us about the book, how it came to be, and what are one or two of the key messages that you share in that book?
Thank you. It is Peace and Passing, which you could tell from the title, the idea was to help people any way I could through this very, very difficult time of losing somebody who has meant so much to us. And in some cases, we have a closer relationship with our animals than some of the people in our lives who, quote unquote, should be very close to, but we humans have a hard time getting along. And, and so sometimes the relationship with our pets is easier, and it makes the loss harder, is my point. So I wrote it for that, and I did the rewrite a few years ago because I noticed that our grief starts as soon as we get a diagnosis that confirms that our animal's not going to live forever, or we start to see them go downhill physically, whatever that is, where somebody who loved a good jog is down to a slow creep, things like that. And so I took and expanded the book to include mindsets and other ways that we could help ourselves. And by helping ourselves, we help our animals through this process of transition from the time that we always knew, but now it's a reality. So one of the things that I like to share the most as a mindset is, the background is from, I'm a Monty Python fan, if anybody's there, and there's a scene, and I think the Holy Grail, where the guy is saying, "I'm not dead yet." And I'm not going to tell you more about that scene because it doesn't really work for what I'm going to say next. But the point is, our beloved companions did not hear the diagnosis, and they are not living in that world that we're living in. And what that can mean for us is to remember, how can we make their life as positive as possible? Remember, with the memory that they would say to you, "Hey, I'm not dead yet. Here I am. I'm right here. Stop grieving me." You could, and of course we can't just stop, but we can shift over to, why am I lucky today to have this guy or gal still in my life? And how can I make their life better? How can we still find things to enjoy together? Because they're not dead yet. So that's one of the ones that I have to remember when I.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of being healthy and happy, one of the things that you offer, I believe, is animal healing. So
I
while
do.
while transitions, that's a part of life. But the good news is we have many years with our pets, and sometimes pets get sick or they get injured, or there are even emotional things that go on with pets. Can you share a little bit about how you go about the healing process for clients who would like that for their pets?
Okay. Well, I, my, excuse me, my specialty is with energy healing, and there are so many different good modalities in there. Uh, and so I use different protocols and procedures depending on what's going on and what seems correct. What I love about energy healing is I know that we are all energy, and our energy fields are up and around us, within us, and what energy healing does is we work, and I work with guides to release the heavy energy that continues to cause what we see in the physical world, the or behaviorally. If there's something from the past with animals who had a tough start, about starting to release the energy of some of the memories that they bring back, they bring to the present with them, that gets in the way of their enjoying life. Um, my dog Tibor, which I talked about earlier, he was one of the guys I worked on early on. Uh, for physical illness, it is also as I don't know that there's cures, or I haven't found them, but there's a releasing of the heaviness of energy that is causing illness. It allows for, what I've noticed is usually allows for a little more lightness and joy in their lives. Sometimes some of the symptoms relieve. Uh, they're just not quite as bad, and sometimes there are some wonderful shifts in the body, and sometimes even in the human being who sees what needs to be done next. So I'll stop there because I'm giving a general overall
Right, right.
feeling.
And that is, of course, each case is unique. Would that be true?
That is true. That is,
And would it be also safe to say that you're guided for each and every case that is brought to you?
I am. I do ask. I stop and ask and say, okay, what is most effective? What is most where do we go here? How do we clear this up and help both the animal and the person, truthfully. And we're focused on the animal, but sometimes we do some healing for the person, especially if there's anxiety and worry, because we affect each other. So lightening, helping the person lighten up, and I mean that energetically, but it's also, you see it in people's emotions. If that new vibration does help our animals, our our companions. So sometimes it's both. We work on both of you, if I can put it that way.
We are a field, an energy
Yes,
field, and our pets are clearly part of that field. And sometimes, many times, it is necessary to work within the field of energy that is created by your pet. You and other family members, too, perhaps, are part of that dynamic as well. So, um, if someone would like to learn for themselves how to go about connecting with their pets, is that something you teach?
it is. I have two ways of doing this. I have an in-depth You Connect animal communication class. I'm teaching it right now. It's online, so there's people all over the place in the class from all over the US. I've also had people outside the country. I also created uh, a group called Family Animal Communicators Community. And what I designed this for was to create a mini You Connect course that's been pre-recorded, where you can take and complete each module at your leisure. And I also then do practices and Q&As every month. So So maybe we'll reach my goal, which is, a communicator in every family. Wouldn't that be nice? Right?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. I think for those of us who have owned pets, as you said, I think when we started, there are people who think, well, I know what my pet is thinking. I think to a degree that is true, yet there are deeper levels that really take more attention, more training, more awareness, more intuition. And I think that's the beauty and the benefit of spending time and giving attention to the process of learning from you. And so if people would like to be in touch with you, either for having you communicate with their animals or teaching them how to do it or for healing sessions, how do they go about that? What's the best way forward?
The first place I'd send you to is my website, sacredgrove.com. And then, or you can email me, Maribeth@sacredgrove.com. And of course, the spelling is got to be difficult sometimes. Thank you, Mom. It's Maribeth, one word, at SACREDGROVE.com.
And I would encourage, it's a beautiful website, and there's a lot of great information on there, and you get it. Some websites you have to, unfortunately, dig through page after page to get at information that you're interested in, and your website is very clean, very clear, and very useful. So I would encourage everyone to visit the site. And can you share that website with us again?
Sure. Sacredgrove.com, SACREDGROVE.com.
Great. Maribeth, as we begin to wrap up, is there anything that I've missed or that you would like to share that we haven't yet talked about?
I would like to just appeal to those of us who love our animals to the degree that I know many of us do, to see if we could bring that compassion and love to the human race. Because I gotta say, it is much easier uh, for those of us who have that kind of connection with animals. Uh, it is much easier to feel that, and I think that if we can open our hearts to see how we can be more compassionate for fellow human beings, this would be another gift that the animal kingdom gives us. So,
Absolutely true. I pray every night for peace on earth, and
yep.
I'm hopeful that at some point that becomes a reality across the planet. Maribeth, it's been an absolute delight. I thank you so much for joining us. And I also want to thank those who are watching on YouTube or listening through our podcasts. I thank you also for your interest and for your attention. And I wish for you and your loved ones blessings in abundance.